Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome to the Better Man podcast. Today's episode is a special episode. This is the 100th episode of the Better Man podcast that I've done. I've started this in, I think, 2021. So to this point, I've done 100 episodes, combination of solo episodes and interview episodes. And since doing them, I've learned a lot in the process. I've learned a lot about being a man. I've learned a lot about self improvement. I've learned a lot about overall health and wellness. Some of these are ideas and themes that I've already believed in and have, consistently implemented and gone deeper into throughout the last few years. And some of these things are totally new ideas. Some of these things are the exact opposite of what I previously believed. So there's been a lot of evolution in my own ideas and my own growth as a result of having these conversations, as a result of having a solo podcast, and also in interacting with you guys, interacting with the listeners, and figuring out what resonates with you, what doesn't resonate with you. So it's been a journey. And in this episode, I want to share the 10 things that I've learned, the top most important things that I've learned, the 10 things since starting this podcast. I also want to touch on what's next for the Better Man podcast. This is wrapping up season 4. But what's next? What's going to be in season 5? So, my team and we're going to be taking a look at the analytics. We're going to be looking into the feedback. We're going to be figuring out what topics are really popular. What are the things that you want to hear about? And I also want to talk with people who haven't been listening to the podcast, people who really love Manful Yoga, but haven't listened to the Better Man podcast, and figure out, well, what's preventing you? Is it the length? I know a lot of you guys want shorter podcasts, so that's definitely something to consider. Is it the topics? What is it? So it's also figuring out how to improve the Better Man podcast. And then I just want to wrap up with what's going on in Manful Yoga now, because even though we're taking a break from Better Man podcast, Manful Yoga is the core of what I do, and that will continue. And a lot of the themes that you'll recognize in the Better Man podcast exist within Manful Yoga as well. All right, let's get into those 10 lessons. Lesson number 1 is there is tremendous strength in sharing your struggles. I cannot tell you how many people I've spoken with who have commended me on my ability to explain my own struggles in a way that relates with them. So I think this just goes to show that sharing your struggles is not only useful for you, for the person sharing them, but it's also helpful for the person who is hearing them, because they get to realize that they are not the only people having this struggle. They realize, oh, you're having that problem too. I thought you were perfect. I thought that you had it all figured out. But now I know that you're going through that same issue. You're going through that struggle as well. And for the person who is expressing the struggle, that's offloading, right? That is getting rid of that stress. That is not letting it stay inside of you, getting it out. And not necessarily even getting support or the logistics to fix it, but just to express it, just to get it out there and admit that it exists, is extremely powerful. So lesson number 1 is the tremendous strength that is involved in sharing your struggles, and just how good that is from a personal health perspective, but also from a social connectivity perspective. Second lesson is there are far fewer differences between men and women that I assumed. I think one of the ideas that I had in starting the Better Man podcast was be able to, talk about self-improvement from the perspective of a man. And what I've realized going through these podcasts, these interviews, is that there are very few instances in which the interpretation or the lesson only applies to a man, or applies more so to a man than to a woman. And that could be because of some of my own beliefs, that could be because of the guests that I've had. But from my perspective, there hasn't been as many differences between men and women as I initially expected. um, Kind of along this line, or related to this, is the appreciation that I've heard from a lot of people in the LGBTQIA plus community for me using terms like partner or spouse instead of saying husband or wife. So just changing language slightly to be more inclusive. And I know that not all of my guests do that. And I want to say that I don't think that comes from this place of malintent. I think they're just used to saying one word or the other. And I hope that if you do hear that, it doesn't turn you off to the message overall. So that is one thing I wanted to say. I think the third lesson that I wanted to say is that masculinity is under attack. There is this general distrust in our society of things that are all male. And I know that because I experienced that coming into the Better Man podcast. I was a person who was like, yeah, like toxic masculinity. What is with that? What is it? And now having conversations with people like, yes, masculinity can be toxic, but also that doesn't mean that masculinity itself is toxic. That doesn't mean that being a man is toxic. And so it, there are definitely expressions of masculinity that are toxic and that are harmful and that should be stopped. They should be called out. But also, it's this case of we're attacking everything that is masculinity, everything that is we are questioning, we are suspicious of things that are all male, and that is wrong. um, that is wrong. And every guy that I've interviewed on here who I've respected has been brave enough to say that out loud and say that, hey, like masculinity is under attack. um, and I came across an idea that made sense to me, really resonated with me. Maybe I don't know what you'll think about it, but it's idea that that masculinity today is kind of in this adolescent phase. It's kind of in this "I'm a man" rah, kind of phase. It's coming from this place of a lack of security, kind of like this idea of aggressively asserting your manhood, and that's the kind of masculinity that I see a lot of in self improvement circles within men. Um, at least some of the more, what I would say, that the behaviors that I would prefer not to see. I don't know why I'm saying that, but I think the just acknowledging the idea that masculinity is under attack um, is important to say, and that not all forms of masculinity are bad, but that there are definitely certain expressions of it that are. But you know, I think that's an important thing to say. Number four, times of struggle are the biggest opportunities for change. And you guys have probably heard this in the interviews that I've done, but so many of the guys that I've interviewed, something that I found really fulfilling for me, and also really powerful, I think, as a storytelling device, is getting people to getting guests to go back to where they experienced their lowest lows, and to understanding how they rebounded from those. How did they learn from the situation? How did they make sense of their struggles? And what did they do? What did they change in order to address the underlying causes or the underlying root issues that that struggle exposed? And with people who can come out of that successfully, there's tremendous opportunity for growth in those struggles. And it's really cool being able to see that in the interviews that I've done. So times of struggle being some of the biggest opportunities for change and self-improvement is definitely a theme that's come up many times. Number five, it is possible to reconcile traditional notions of masculinity with a modern concept of masculinity that makes us better human beings and help us to be kinder to ourselves. This is one of the main reasons I started the Better Man podcast. I do believe that there are positive expressions of masculinity. I also think that there are ways for us to be masculine, to better take care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I think that many of the traditional behaviors associated with masculinity, I would say that they're not really masculine. I would say that in a way they're based, I don't know what you would call them based in, but I think some of the traditional behaviors associated with masculinity that we would maybe group into the toxic masculinity category, or we would put into not even toxic masculinity, but put into a category of men not taking good care of themselves. um, when men aren't taking good care of themselves, I don't know how that's masculine. I think that there's a lack of courage involved when we aren't taking care of ourselves, and we aren't being honest and saying, hey, I'm going through struggles. And this kind of leads me into my next point, which is number 6, and that is that men are repressing emotions. We are scared to say what we're feeling to the people who are close to us. There is Courage today is less about having the courage to run into a burning building, and it's more about being able to do what you need to do, to say what you need to feel, to express yourself, to make an effort to get your overall needs met, to have the courage to do this even when society or the people around you are telling you otherwise, or to do all of that despite the fear of how people around you will act. I think this is a really important point to make. I think that men are really hurting themselves by not sharing their emotions, by not being more expressive of quote unquote negative emotions, of talking about struggles that they're going through, of persisting with this idea of stoicism. It's, it's, because people can tell. People can tell, even if you're not expressing emotions, if you're holding them in, people can tell what's going on. People are, um, especially, traditionally, women will be able to tell that. My wife will be able to tell, my partner will be able to tell when I am not talking about something that's bothering me. So even if you are keeping these emotions in, keeping in these struggles yourself, the people around you are going to realize. So it's better to at least express those things that you're struggling with, to let people into the struggle so that you can work together, but also so that you can be more connected with the people around you. So yeah, men repressing emotions, definitely a big theme. Number 7 fits right in with manful yoga, but regular exercise is a severely undervalued part of your overall well-being. I think that everyone that I spoke with, who I interviewed, had some sort of regular exercise, and I think they counted it as a big reason, or a big contributor to their overall health, energy levels and mood, overall happiness, overall satisfaction, better sleep. And so if you are not currently exercising on a regular basis, I would encourage you to make a more concerted effort to do so. Number 8, there is a real crisis when it comes to male loneliness. So men spending time in friendships with other men. Most men don't have much difficulty to find time for exercise. They might struggle with the motivation and the consistency to do it, but most men don't have difficulty doing that. What they do have difficulty with is finding time and opportunities to spend time with other men. So I think there is a real crisis when it comes to men spending time with other men. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Just the demands that men have, especially if you have a family, or you're someone who's really involved in your community. It's just, or maybe you're just scared of hurting your partner's feelings by going out and hanging out with people other than he or she. So I think there is but based on the conversations that I have, based on the feedback that I've had from listeners, I do believe there's a real crisis when it comes to men spending time with other men. So, number 9, there is one habit that I've noticed in particular that creates a noticeable difference in someone's overall level of calmness, or ability to be present. And I've been able to tell it as soon as I interview people. Two people who come to mind are, I can't remember his name right now, but the relationship guy, Jason Gans, um, and then also Shane from the mobility WOD. Um, I think that's the brand, or Ramwad. Sorry, Ramwad. But those two guys are people who meditate. That's the habit. They meditate for like a half hour at least every day. And gosh, you can tell they just have this different ability to be present and to feel calm than other people that I've spoken with. And it is just, wow, it's amazing. So meditation is one thing that I think has a really incredible impact on your ability to keep yourself calm, to be present. Those conversations, meeting those people, has inspired me to continue to struggle to make meditation a part of my regular routine. And the 10th thing that I want to include is men need time for reflection and processing in order to move forward, in order to create change, in order to better themselves. So we need this time where we're journaling, where we're sitting by ourselves, where we're meditating, where we're walking on our own, and where we're not distracting ourselves with a phone or watching TV or numbing ourselves with some sort of addiction, whether that's drinking or eating or working. Working's an addiction too, or porn or whatever it is. But if we really do need more time to be aware of ourselves, to be aware of our actions, to reflect on what we've done, to reflect on where we're going, what is our vision for ourselves. We need more time on our own to be able to do that. And there's a lot of things preventing us from doing that. We have demanding jobs, we family life, obligations, and even with the free time that we do have, there's constant distractions from modern technology, your phone, TV, um, video games. I don't know if that many people listening play video games, but um, there's so many distractions. It's so hard to be present. It's so hard to take time for reflection. But I think it's important in order for men to be able to self improve and to have an idea of where they're going with their lives. So, those are my 10 things that I've learned. There's definitely a lot more than that. There's definitely more lessons. There's definitely more nuggets of information. But, that's why you can listen to the podcast episodes again. So go back and check them out. Um, Now, what's the future for the Better Man podcast? This is the end of season 4. This is our 100th episode. It's the end of season 4. Moving on to season 5. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what the focus is going to be. I don't know. I know that we're going to keep doing it. I'm not going to be stopping doing this. I think this is an important mission. I've gotten a lot of joy out of doing this. I've gotten a lot of personal growth out of doing it. And if you listen to this, you'll probably know that about me, that if I get something out of it, if I can personally grow from something that I'm doing, I'm probably going to keep doing it. And I know that you guys have benefited from it as well. So I know that I'm going to keep doing the Better Man podcast, but what am I going to focus on? What's the format of the episodes going to look like? How many solo episodes that I'm going to do? How many interviews am I going to do? Is it going to be once a week? Is it going to be every other week? Those are all things that are up in the air. So we're going to go back to the drawing board and look at analytics and figure out what messages are really resonating with people, what podcast episodes are more popular, and we'll craft the agenda based on that. I'm going to keep dreaming big and reaching out to the people that I admire, and people that I'd love to have on the podcast, and um, you know hopefully people who also resonate well with you. I think that's the more important part, is making sure that the guests aren't just people that I respect, but also people that you guys are interested in hearing from as well. And getting into the analytics and looking at the trends, looking at um, the popular guest, I think we're going to be able to figure that out really well, and come back new and improved and ready for season 5. While you're waiting for that, in Manful Yoga, I have been slowly killing myself to create this new venture called Manful Yoga Engage. And it's been a learning process. We've done a lot of surveys, a lot of conversations with customers, and I'm really excited about this new version that we're launching, this beta 2 version. In addition to the existing platform that we have, a community kind of like Facebook, but only for Manful Yoga. And it's a lot cleaner, and there's more discussion topics to choose from. So in addition to that, in addition to the live Q&A, follow along workouts and the guest expert Q&As that we already do, we're also going to be launching watch party workouts where you can follow along to a group workout as part of a video call. We're launching group coaching calls, and we're actually hiring multiple engaged coaches to be able to run those calls so people can come in, talk about their struggles, get information, get support, talk through things, see what other things that guys are going through. We're also creating subgroups so that you can interact with like-minded communities. And there's probably a few other things on the list that I'm currently forgetting. We're also launching monthly themes as part of this. So monthly themes, and then also weekly challenge workouts. So you'll have workouts to do as a community every week. So we're putting a lot more into this, and we're also reducing the price from what was originally $99 a month to just $29 a month. So this is something that I'm really excited about. I've had a ton of calls with you guys to figure out what is going to be more popular, and I think this is going to be it. So we're launching this on July 1st. I'm really excited to see how this goes. I think it's going to be pretty successful, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. Nervous, but also excited. So that's what's going on in Manful Yoga. In addition to continuing, our weekly workouts in the members area, and we're still putting out YouTube videos once a week, our social media, and all of that continues. So, but little pause for the Better Man podcast just to give myself because it does take a lot of time. It's kind of surprising how much time a podcast takes, even though it's just one episode per week. There's a lot of time that goes into that. There's a lot of stuff that the team has to do to make that happen. So it is not a small endeavor. So there. Anyways, I want to thank you guys again for listening to this 100th episode. I hope you guys will, in some shape or form, continue with Manflow Yoga, continue with what we're doing. If you're not already, members area, easiest way to get started. And then also we do have a free 7-day challenge, which you can sign up for at manfulyoga.com/7DC to get 7 workouts, 15-minute workouts to teach you how yoga can help you with your everyday life, make you feel stronger, more flexible, get rid of pain, all that good stuff. So thanks, guys, for listening. Thank you for being here. I'll look forward to seeing you on another episode soon. If you haven't already, please leave a review for the Better Man podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You can do that on Apple Podcasts. You can also do that on Spotify. But right now, I think we're close to 150 reviews. So I'd love it if you could help out with some more reviews. And then that's all I've got. All right, guys. I'll see you on the next episode when we launch for season 5. Bye. Take care.
If you like that episode, check out this other one right here. I think you're really going to enjoy it. If you haven't subscribed, click this subscribe button over here, and you can listen to the full episodes on any major podcasting platform. Full details below in the description.